Right, hello. Today we're going to make a seeded loaf of bread. It's my adapted recipe from my sister-in-law because I couldn't get the kind of flour that she uses, so I shall show you what I use. I have Taste the Difference whole grain seeded bread flour, and I have some strong white bread flour to go along with it. And what you have to do is mix the two together. So I shall just run through that quickly. It's 330 grams of this particular flour. It's really good, and it means you don't need to add any extra seeds to it because it's all incorporated already. So this is 330 grams into your bowl. Then I like to put the dried yeast and the salt in next to get it out of the way, and also to make sure that I have remembered to put it in the first place. So a sachet of your fast-acting dried yeast goes in. That's about 7 grams, I believe, in that little sachet. All of that. Is that done? And your salt, 1.5 teaspoons, which might seem excessive, but it does make a difference. Oop. Right, there was a little bit went in just ahead of that, so I'm not going to put the full 1/2 teaspoon in there. That's it. That's that. And now the other flour. So this is a strong white purposeful bread flour, and you want 170 grams of this, and then you can mix the whole lot together. I don't bother sieving it, it doesn't tell me to. Again, we've overshot it. There we go. It's one of the easiest loaves to make. It's no messing at all. It's just straight in, mix it in, shove it somewhere warm, and it's good to go. Right, mix all of this in well so that you get all of the seeded stuff and the plain flour and the yeast all mixed in. Right. Make a little well in the middle, ready for your wet stuff. Now, water. 330 mils of tepid water, and this needs very careful measuring. Nice clean finger checking that. Don't put that in yet, just keep that to one side, because what you want to put in next is the honey. I've never used honey before, only in this one, and it's really delicious. It's well worth doing. 1 tablespoon, a good tablespoon of honey. And this one is a Taste the Difference orange blossom, which is particularly nice. And to make sure that I get all the honey off that spoon, because it's a bit of a game, I stick it in the water. That sorts that out. Now, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. This isn't olive oil, this is a rapeseed oil, which is apparently better for you. 2 tablespoons of that. And again, the spoon goes in the water afterwards to make sure I get it all off. That's those 2 done. And now mix all of this in. And before I put the water in, because that's going to start to get going as soon as the water goes in and it all starts mixing up, I'm just going to grease my pan. And put just 1 sheet of the greaseproof paper on it. Mess around trying to line just the bottom of it, because it really needs to go up the sides as well, and it makes it easier to take out of the pan at the end if you've got some overlap, rather than cutting it to size. So that's the pan nicely ready, and now I'm going to put the water in here. That's all come off. Not all at once. Mix it in. It's a strange mix that comes out here. It starts off quite dry and you think, oh, that's not going to work. And then all of a sudden, it gets really gloopy. And you think that can't be right, but stick with it. It does work. Be getting my hands in there in a minute. And this is a mix that you don't actually put out onto a worktop at all. It's all contained in the bowl, so it's not messy. You're not scraping dough off a work surface for the rest of the day. It's just straight in. Right, so I'm just going to pour in the last of that. Check that I've got everything in there. Yep. There we go. That's the last of that. Scrape it all down. Now this doesn't get much in the way of kneading. I just kind of pull it all together with my hands because it's going to go in the mixer with the dough hooks for 8 to 10 minutes. That side of it's not too fussy. It needs to be more than 8 minutes, put it that way, but no more than 10, so that's fine. There we go. That's nice and mixed. And that helps fit on at the socket. Nice slow speed, 10 minutes. Our 10 minutes is just up. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. There we go. It's gloopy. It's meant to be like that, and it will look quite damp around the perimeter. That's absolutely fine. I'm going to switch that off at the mains. There we go. Get all of this lovely stuff off. And just pull it together with your hand because it's going to go straight into this tin. Now this is a £3 loaf tin. The recipe does say a £2 one, but I found the whole thing just exploded over the sides and actually got quite burnt. So I experimented with a £3 one. It does mean that the loaf is a bit lower, but it's a lot. It spreads out a lot better in this pan. So you can see it's quite roughly lined with paper. And now I'm just going to scoop this with one hand and carefully aim it at the middle of the pan. Just as it comes out, just let it flop. It will spread over the whole of the bottom of this pan because when it proves. That's as much of that as I can get out. Now just gently move it around with your hands. Try and get it a bit over there. Right, that's what it looks like at the moment. Now I'm going to get all of this stuff off my hands. Finally, what we need to do is to just oil some cling film. Any old oil will do. I just happen to have this one to hand. Just oil the top. And then drape it over the tin. Tuck it in loosely around the side. It doesn't need too much faffing. And put this now into a warm place for 45 minutes to an hour. I give it the full hour to make sure that it's as risen as it's going to be. And if you put it on a cloth, it just saves anything, because mine goes in the airing cupboard. I don't really want oil all over our clothes in there. So, an hour in a warm place, and then we'll see the difference when it comes out. Right, so this has been in my airing cupboard for an hour. It could just as easily have been any other warm place. Some ovens have proving temperatures, so you can just put it in a cool oven designed for that, but mine doesn't, so there we go. So this is now ready to go in the oven. The oven's been on 180 for about the last 5 minutes, but mine is a pretty vicious fan oven, so if you've got an ordinary oven, it probably wants to be on a lot longer before this goes in. Don't mess with it, I don't draw any lines on it, just shove it in now. This one's going to be in for 27 minutes, which sounds an odd number. The recipe says somewhere between 30 and 33, I think, but that proved too long. Right, so this has got another minute or so in the oven. Quite often what I've started to do is to take it out, tap the bottom to see if it's cooked, and if I'm at all unsure, pop it back in upside down. Moment of truth. Now that looks done. So, I think that's done. I'm going to let it have just a minute or two, just like that, back in the oven. And we're done. Let it cool completely before you start slicing into it. It will freeze beautifully. Can toast it from frozen. Always supposing you haven't eaten it before it's got anywhere near the freezer, which is often the case in our house. Thank you and goodbye.